When did you get to be the hero? I've been working as an elementary school for 3 years now, and most people see me as just another elderly woman in a safety vest waving a stop sign. But standing at that corner every morning and afternoon, you see everything that happens in the schoolyard. There was this one kid, Luke, whose mother was PTA president, and whose father donated new playground equipment every year. Luke was 8 years old, but already acted like he owned the school. Teachers praised him constantly, and the staff looked the other way when Luke got mean, because the Bailey family practically funded half the school programs. Luke's favorite target was Alice, a quiet second grader whose family had just moved here when her mom got transferred for work. Alice was incredibly talented at drawing and painting, but she was shy and always carried her art like she was protecting it from the world. She'd wait by herself at my crossing every day with her little backpack covered in paint stains. Luke made sure Alice knew she didn't belong at his school. He'd knock her art supplies out of her hands when teachers weren't looking. He convinced other kids that Alice's paintings were weird and babyish. He spread rumors that she only painted in the first place because her parents made her go to art therapy. The worst part was watching Alice try to shrink herself smaller and smaller, hiding her artwork and walking home alone while Luke was surrounded by admirers. One morning, I watched Luke deliberately bump into Alice as she was carrying a painting she'd made for the school art contest. Her canvas went flying into a puddle, completely ruining weeks of work. As Alice knelt in the mud trying to save her painting, Luke stood over her and said loudly, "Oops, guess you'll have to drop out of the contest now. Maybe next time don't bring baby art to a real competition." Alice started crying right there on the sidewalk, and Luke just walked away laughing with his friends. But what Luke didn't know was that I wasn't just some random crossing guard. Before I retired, I'd been superintendent of this district for 12 years. I'd hired half the current administration, and the school board still called me for advice on major decisions. I'd been quietly watching Alice's incredible talent for months. That afternoon, I made a few calls to old contacts, including the director of the Children's Art Museum downtown. 2 weeks later, it was time for the annual spring art showcase where Luke expected to win first place like he had the previous 2 years. The gymnasium was packed with parents, and his mom sat in the front row wearing a shirt with Luke's photo on it. The principal announced that this year's contest had attracted special attention from the Metropolitan Children's Art Museum. "We have a very special guest here today," she said, gesturing to a woman in a professional suit. "The museum's education director has come to personally recognize one of our young artists." I watched from the back as Luke straightened his tie, expecting to be called forward. Instead, the director announced, "Please welcome Alice Green, whose painting, My New Home, has been selected for our upcoming exhibition of emerging young artists." The gym erupted in applause as Alice walked forward, completely shocked. The director continued, "Alice will receive a year-long mentorship with one of our professional artists." Luke's face went from confident to confused to furious as his moment vanished completely, but then came the part that surprised everyone. The principal added, "We'd also like to recognize our very own crossing guard, whose recommendation brought Alice's work to the museum's attention." Every head in the gymnasium turned to look at me standing there in my safety vest. Alice's mother was crying, and her father was applauding like his life depended on it. Luke's mom looked like she'd swallowed a lemon as other parents whispered about how they'd never realized the crossing guard had those kinds of connections. After the ceremony, Luke confronted me in the parking lot. "That's not fair," he shouted. "You're just a crossing guard. You can't just give prizes to whoever you want." I looked down at him calmly and said, "You're right, son. I can't give prizes, but I can make sure talented children get the recognition they deserve, especially when other children try to destroy their dreams." Later that evening, Alice's parents found me putting away my crossing guard equipment. Her mother could barely speak through her tears. "Alice never told us about the bullying," she whispered. "She just kept saying she wanted to make the school proud with her art." 6 months later, I got an invitation to Alice's first solo exhibition at the Children's Museum. The invitation included a small drawing she'd made of me at my crossing, with a note that said, "Thank you for helping me feel safe again."